George says, "Hi, Dutch and James. I'd like to hear more about some of the best enhancement talent that Dutch has known over the decades. I know one name that comes up more than any other is George South.
Sure
Interviewed
does.
him as well. Charming fella. I like George.
Great guy.
Give us some George
Good
South
guy.
stories. I'm not sure maybe we have. I
Well,
can't remember, but
well, I was going to do a show for him one time, and I left late, and it was way over there in North Carolina, which means I had to go. I was in Nashville. It was a long trip, and I left too late. Me and Buddy Landell, for one
was it your
reason.
fault or his?
Oh, yeah, it's his fault, of course. And Buddy got high in the back, and he slept most of the way because he. Then we got there late and barely made the show, and we missed a couple matches, and I think he felt bad about it, but he had to have somebody fill in, and we didn't get all of our money. Of course, it was our fault. So we got what we could, and then we limped back in like, boy, this is a wasted ass day and a long day too. But George, he's very religious. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Highly religious. And he runs good shows because he's the main event of these shows, and he knows his audience, and he goes out there and he's always the heel, even though he's a baby face before the match starts. He's a heel during the show and a great heel. And I think and he goes in and he does it the old fashioned way. He'll go in and he'll get a sponsor, say the football team, and they'll sell all these tickets, and he gives them a good split of it. But he'll do a good show. And when the show's over, I've been to some shows like independent shows. It was embarrassing to even put the show on. So whoever sponsored that show, they're embarrassed too, because the people come up to them later in the town. Everybody knows everybody, and say, "Boy, that was a crappy show you guys brought in." And the guy said, "Well, I'll never bring wrestling back in." But with George, they bring him back because he puts on a hell of a show. Everybody has a good time, and it's family time because you can bring your kids to it. There's no cussing. There's no this. There's no that. And it's a good, wholesome show. And George does a great job. I don't really have any stories about George per se, but I've never heard anything bad about him.
You've wrestled him though, haven't you?
Oh, I've wrestled him. Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah.
And I think he would like to have gone and and I think he had the skill to be a bigger star. But I think he spent so much time. This was in the days of WCW and those days. So you had about 9,000 independents running. I mean, this independent cannot run this town, then another independent run it the next 2 weeks, and then another, eventually you burn the town out. Nobody wants to see wrestling anymore. They've had it so many times. I've seen towns like that and George would go in there and he'd get these towns up, and then it would become a regular town. He runs a wrestling school too. And I think that anybody knows wrestling, George would be a great mentor and a great instructor.
George strikes me as someone who's got absolutely no ego as far as wins and losses, because when I interviewed him, and I'm sure I've heard him say it elsewhere, I was like, listen, I got 5 houses out of losing every single night. It doesn't mean anything.
No,
you know what I mean?
And
it's a great attitude to have. It's like, well, I'm booked constantly. I was good. Doesn't matter who was staring up at the lights.
Right. It don't matter. What matters at the end of the day is whether you've enriched yourself or enhanced your financial standing. And he runs these shows and he beats himself. So, and he's usually a heel and he puts the baby faces over. Everybody leaves happy. He goes over there and he collects the gate of the house. He settles up with a sponsor. Now he goes to his concession stand that he runs, and he makes good money off that. So he can go into a town with absolutely nothing and leave with $5,000 or $6,000. Not bad.